Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5, at the 2, at the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Cornbread! I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers. We are here on a Friday. It's the end of the week. Hope everybody's doing good. Hope you had a great week, either at home, at work, wherever you may be. We're at the end of June here, and before you know it, be into July, less than a month away from what should be football. I'm getting a little nervous, I got to admit, with some things I hear, and then right as I start to get nervous, I hear people say, oh, don't worry, there's definitely going to be football, so we'll see what happens. I'm keeping my mind open for all things. We've got a packed show here for you on a Friday with all types of Lions talk, and you know who's going to bring it to us. You know who's going to get me fired up if you heard our Wednesday show, and that's the one and only Grifka. Grifka, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Doing good. It is officially summer this week. It was the first week of summer where it's the full week, so it's been hot up here in Michigan. And it's going to be a great weekend. We're a weekend away from the 4th. Everybody just, once again, stay safe, like Derek mentioned, and, TGIF.
All right, we got that out of the way. Grifka, let's get it moving. We're talking Lions. What the heck we got going on besides the weather, your TGIF garbage, and please don't tell me you're going to bring up like a Lions 24/7 article, or, I had to take care of Adam Rank last week on my solo show. I hope you heard that. I hope you heard me drop that knowledge, those rhymes and things I was dropping. Don't make me open up a can on you today.
Yeah, I heard Adam Rank stank. That was, I was like, he's a poet. He doesn't know it. And so, yeah, I did listen to that. That was very entertaining. One thing I wanted to touch base with you on, I just have a couple questions for you. We touched base on Martha, handing the keys over to, I don't know, I can't remember what, Sheila is her name, I believe, something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So my first question for you is, do you think the direction of the team is going to kind of like stay where Martha was going with it? Do you think it's going to kind of go towards the way, Senior was running it, kind of like a lot of head scratching? It's like, how come this guy's still the coach? Or do you think she'll be more hands-on? Or do you have any idea where this direction's going to stay, or are you just going to stay like status quo?
Grifka, I explained this to you already on Wednesday show. Like what Ford Senior, what Martha did, what her daughter. Where's my rock clip when I need it? It doesn't matter what they do, because all they're doing is signing checks and being figureheads for the organization. You know what matters, Grifka? Why I tell you every week on this podcast? What Bob Quinn does matters. What Matt Patricia does matters. What the football players do is what matters, and what wins at the highest level. And people can come in and tell you, oh, exactly, like they haven't done anything. Look at their records. Like, I've seen some articles here recently. I'm sure these are the ones that you pass by when you're cruising your websites. It's the positive articles, Griff, because it's the one where Pro Football Focus, the people that basically look at every nuance of every play of every football game ever, other than sitting in their lazy boy and watching a couple plays here or there. Yeah, those people, they said the Lions have the best roster in the NFC North. I don't know who said it. I hope I have that right, but they said they got a great roster top to bottom. And I think I've seen other people say that too, not only predicting who to win, but saying, like, if you really dig deep, this roster continues to turn over and continues to not only get better, but add younger, more versatile football players, get the type of team, the type of people Matt Patricia wants. So that's the kind of thing that's going to turn everything around. Like, what do you think if they just sold the team tomorrow and somebody new came in? They're going to automatically like have good football team, have a good head coach, have a good GM. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, yeah, you have to make decent decisions when you change over regimes, but nothing Martha Ford ever did was ever getting us wins or losses on Sundays. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I mean, I know Martha, they're in the the blue blocker she had on wanted you to think that, oh, she came in and just cleaned house, she's going room to room just firing people. Like, okay, great, that should have been done years ago. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't anything being done from an ownership perspective. It's all about football people, football on the field. And yeah, would you love to have a big dynamic owner that could come out and do more press conferences and hire the perfect people every time? Of course you would, but we know a lot of owners, a lot of people that are out and about more that don't get wins either. So, I just think it's a bunch of nothing, to be honest. Like, I mean, everybody rags on the Fords for their ownership. I just think they've not only picked the wrong people, but have had some issues meddling instead of getting good football people in here and letting them do what they do, which is somewhat what they're doing now, even though it hasn't created W's yet. They're sticking with this regime and letting it ride a little bit rather than every 3-4 years we got to flip it over again. I mean, simple as that, man.
So you're looking for them to be more of like the Rooneys and less of the Jerry Jones then? You would rather have them. You'd rather have more like the Rooneys in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, but I mean, the Rooneys too have a certain not only respect level, but yeah, they hire good people. They let them do what they do, but you got to be engaged to some degree, but you also just have to let your, the Kevin Colbert's the GM. He's been there, 10, 15 more years, probably longer than that. Aviators, Mike Tomlin's been there over a decade plus. Like, that's why they get success, because of the consistency and because they brought in good people. They stick with them. I mean, Mike Tomlin had a couple tough years there, either early on or in his mid-career. They didn't just boot him and bring in the next flashy toy or try to make the fans happy by just firing everybody Mike Valente style. No, they hang in there and they just ride things out, and over time it creates a good culture, good organization, and consistent winning. So yeah, that hasn't happened yet here with our Detroit Lions, but it's because we're changing coordinators, changing GMs, changing head coaches at a whim most times, or staying with guys that everybody can tell are horrible for 6-7 years too long. Like your favorite GM ever, Matthew Millen. I mean, you got to have your finger on the pulse and know when to make decisions, but you have to have people that are good decision makers. And that's not a 94-year-old Martha Ford going, oh, who I think should be GM? No, like, you need her putting people in place that are like, wow, I'm a 20-year NFL executive and I know what wins and who needs to be hired and who needs to be fired. And the closest thing they have right now to that is Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, because those guys have won Super Bowls. They've been in a top organization. And yeah, it hasn't worked here yet in Detroit, but they're the people that I would count on to make tough decisions and know what they're doing, more so than a 94-year-old lady or 68-year-old daughter or old man Ford or Junior or Broadwood or anybody, right? I mean, it seems pretty simple to me, just that, yeah, you got to have an organization like Pittsburgh is the goal, but you got to do the right things to get there, and that's consistency, longevity, and I want to say hiring the right people, but I almost want to say finding the right people to hire the right people more so.
You mentioned Rod Wood, and he's just, isn't he just kind of like the bean counter though, saying, yeah, he's your salary cap guy. It's like, yeah, we can finagle the numbers to make this guy fit in. And, does he technically really need to know if a guy can play in a cover 2 scheme on defense or be able to, run good routes in a slot? I mean, does technically he need to know that stuff? Or is he just the guy that does all the creative accounting to make the salary cap work?
don't get me upset again, and please listen to me when I talk. Like, the reason that we're not good is because we have people like Rod Wood in the position he's in. You know why? Because he's a family friend. He is a bean counter. He doesn't know anything about football other than me or you on this podcast, where he watched games for years, or he's a fan, or he thinks he knows. He doesn't know, and that's the problem. Is that Sheila Ford Hamp is Rod Wood's best buddy. They, unless she just boots him out of town and brings in like a team president that has a bunch of clout and that will at least give, the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia a chance. That's the problem with this organization, is like, oh, you're the estate owner. You've done a great with our Ford estate. Well, that doesn't mean you should be the vice team president of a NFL football team. I mean, I've given Rod Wood credit on the jerseys, some of the stadium improvements, whatever it may be. But like you said, if he was just sitting back, giving accounting tips and shutting his mouth, no problem. But when he's out there giving, thoughts on, team construction and how the organization should be built, and he's in on every meeting, it's like, hey Sheila, hey Rod, we don't need you in on these meetings. You want to come to the annual, Christmas dinner? Great. You want to come just hang out for lunch? No problem. But when we're talking about draft prospects, when we're talking about how we want to build this team for the long haul, yeah, leave that time open on your Outlook calendar. You're not needed for those meetings, okay? And like, instead they sit in on everything because they want to, like, quote unquote know or be involved. That's what she keeps saying. I want to be involved. It's like, you can be involved on certain things. Other things you need to be uninvolved. And that's the problem, I think, is that the Lions always have all these people involved, and a lot of times it's the wrong people at the wrong time in the wrong spot. And the first person is like Rod Wood. If he was still with the organization and was focused on, business accounting and fan experience and so other things like that, no problem. You can have a job for life. Here's your corner office. But you need football people, as I said on Wednesday, and as I'm saying now. And until they get that, they just got family, friends, or people they're comfortable with, instead of the only people that are not comfortable with that they brought in is Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, two people that, may toe the company in line a little bit because they have to, but they're also people that I guarantee have said a lot of things that the Fords never have heard before and never wanted to hear. So that's my take.
I'm glad you got that off your chest.
Thank you.
I don't want you like, going to sleep, with that, you thinking about that. So I'm glad you got rid of that. It's always good to be able to,
like I say on Twitter, I gotta educate you. I mean, you're over here like, supporting Rod Wood, or thinking that they did this because Martha Ford's about ready to keel over, and I'm telling you, like, this is a lateral move. This is a sideways move that shouldn't impact much, but it's not gonna help us either until they decide, hey, instead of the family friend accountant, let's go get a top level NFL team president. Let's have Bob Quinn right under him. Let's have Matt Patricia right under him. Let's have a really good scouting staff, the best of the best. Let's have top analytics, top facilities. That's what wins at a high level, not these people that you're comfortable with or that you enjoy spending time with.
Enjoy spending time. Did you invite Rod to the Christmas party? Of course I did. I love hanging out with him.
What's Martha's most favorite quote, other than the one I do half the time on the show as a gimmick? Her other quote that she's known for is, "I love Jim Caldwell." It's like, nobody cares if you love Jim Caldwell. Is he good enough to coach this team? Is he going to win us a Super Bowl? No. Okay, bye. See you later, Reverend. That's the way they need to run their business, and they're not going to do it that way.
Okay. One more quick question to you before we stop to pay the bills. Now that Martha's, stepped aside, what do you think she does with her days? Think she's like maybe the, working the front desk, at Ford Field, something like that? Or what do you think she does?
Griff, the way you've teed up that question, it sounds like almost a loaded question. Like you would want to maybe hear what it might sound like to have Martha Ford at the front of the guest services booth when you enter Ford Field. Is that what you're getting at?
Oh, of course. That I would love to know if I walked in to ask about Ford Field and she's sitting there. I'm going to ask about, tickets for, a group outing, what would she sound like if I want to take, the Boy Scouts to a game?
I mean, I can only imagine Grifka, but it might go to something like this. I know you want to come to the game with the Boy Scouts, but you want to hear about my favorite memory? My favorite memory hasn't happened yet. You know why? Because I want to win the Lombardi Trophy. Yay! and then she follows it up with, and if you buy a certain amount of tickets, we can get you a great discount at the Sunglass Hut. Just want to let you know that's a little perk for season ticket holders. It's just a little something I do for the people. I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff you get from her. I'm sure she's a sweet lady. I'm sure she's super nice, but that's similar to what she might sound either at the ticket booth or the guest services. She might help you find your seat. She might shake your hand. I know you like that, Grifka. She might take care of you with a pair of shades. But other than that, like, I don't know what she does on her day. I don't know what else she would be up to. To me, again, I hate to rip it, but to me, the Ford family is a very privileged family. It's not like they work to earn their billions of dollars, basically just handed to them on a silver platter, literally and figuratively. So again, nice lady. I'm sure she's tremendous, kind person, but just not a team owner that we want for our NFL football franchise. And I mean, we'll wait and see on her daughter. And like I say, I don't know that ownership's the issue, but hopefully they can get the right mix and start winning ball games. And like I say, I think it comes down to football players. And I think we have a pretty sneaky 2020, 2021 football team. And now they got to go out and prove it. So we'll see if they can do that. I hope so.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's once again, let's hit the commercials. This one I think we might have had to do some fun editing on Wednesday's show, but let's take a pause for the cause and pay some bills here.
Everybody, we'll be right back.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Detroit Koolaid drinkers, we're back from the break. Thank you, listen for our sponsors, Anchor Podcasts, Spotify, all those great sponsors that keep us going. Again, just a reminder, you can hit us up on Twitter, find me at Derek Oakery, or you can get Grifka at GrifkaDKC. You can call up our call-in line, leave us a funny message. We might play you on the show. What's that number again there, Waffle Maker?
Oh, that number is 989-272-3484. 989-272-3484.
If we had to do the last four digits with players, what might that sound like?
That would be Kevin Smith and Herman Moore.
Thank you, sir. The other thing I want to remind people, I know it's a tough time, but I know I've reached out to some people and they're, asked them if they'd consider sponsoring our podcast. There's a little link when we send it out on Wednesdays and Fridays. When you click on it, there's a little button that says support. You could give $1 a month, $4 a month. That really helps me and Grifka keep our technology up where we can keep our equipment going, as well as all the time and effort we put on to put on 2 quality shows here. And then I do the Believe, BLEAV and Lions podcast on Mondays as well. So 3 podcasts a week talking Lions. I know this is sort of the down period, but before you know it, will be July, August, September, heading into football, and it's going to get crazy. It's going to get fun. So if you could ever support our show that way, that really helps out a ton too, as well as leaving a positive review on iTunes if you think we've earned it. We love that as well. So Grifka, what are we talking about on the backside of the show here? And please don't get me upset again, because I hate to yell at you for 2 straight shows.
No, this is going to be a fun show, this part, because we are going to the Wayback Machine. And we've been talking about roster construction, guys that have been signed, free agents. And I went back and I did some looking, and I just grabbed a few names of people that I thought were good signings, and other people that I thought were good signings at the time that turned out to be bad signings. So I want to throw these names at you and get your thoughts on them, and what you thought at the time, and what, when they finally got here and you got to see them, what you thought of him at the end. So let's do this. You want to go with the good people that I thought turned out to be good, or the bad people first?
Oh my gosh. The fact that you asked makes me laugh, and the fact that you have anybody in your good category makes me laugh. So of course I want to go to the good category because I'm the positive one on the show, and because the fact that you found a positive player to talk about, just I can't wait to hear. Let's do this.
Sure. I mean, I thought you might want to end on the good, but okay, I'm cool with that. Well, let's do this. I'm going to bring out this one. What did you think of when they signed back in 2010 Kyle Vanden Bosch? I'm going to go with he was a good player. I thought he had some productive years here. What did you think of Kyle Vanden Bosch?
I know exactly where I was when all that went down. I was actually visiting my Uncle Dean, and it was right around free agency, and there was lots of rumor and innuendo about certain guys we were going to go after. I remember that was the draft too, where I really wanted Russell Okung, the left tackle, in that draft. And the night of free agency, they went and they showed up on Nate Burleson and Kyle Vanden Bosch's doorstep. Good old Jimmy handshake. Jimmy Schwartz went and got that done personally by showing up in the dark of night in his car and waiting till the deadline struck and got out and got those done. I think the story goes that Schwartz brought bottle of wine and some stuff to Vanden Bosch and his wife, and just a whole schmooze fest. So, I mean, to me, KVB was that player that we kind of get excited about in Detroit, or just when that kind of stuff happens, because we needed a rush player. He was one of those hustle players. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but I mean, he had some dog tendencies. But he had the red contact lenses. But when you really break it down, he was a white defensive end that wasn't very athletic, and that if he couldn't hustle and get after you, he couldn't do much, so he had a little bit of good stuff. I remember when he first got here, and then he really tailed off to where he just couldn't get it done anymore, and we're sitting there sort of holding the bag. So, I mean, again, I was probably in that mix of excited because of where he came from and what he had done up to, but where I'm at now with knowing football a bit more, I would project that, that type of player isn't going to win at a high level at the age he was at for the next however many years we signed him. And that's pretty much what happened. He came here, made a few plays, got everybody excited, showed off for the crowd, and then next thing you know, it was like, hey, where's KVB? Anybody seen him? Oh, he's cut? Oh, okay. That's kind of what it felt like maybe a year or two of good play, and then a couple years where we just got burned on it. So that's what I'd say.
What about this one? I believe it's back in 2003, if I remember correctly. Dre Bly.
Dre Bly was like, what?
You remember watching Dre Bly play, or did I go back too far for you? I can't remember.
I remember him. I was just gonna say, it was sort of as just I was getting into, a lot. I remember him being the all or nothing type corner when I first got going, and unfortunately, kind of like now, even the Lions never really highly invested in corners other than him and a couple players here or there. So he was like the golden goose of Dre Bly's he's our cover corner, he's our turnover machine, and there were years where he got his hands on a bunch of footballs and made some fun plays, and then there was times where it was like, that's our top guy. I mean, he's out there getting abused sometimes too. So, I mean, I liked him just because he had that swag too. I mean, again, I've always been a Dion fan, so he just had that ability where he believed in himself, and he had the the swagger on the field. But I mean, like I say, they got him sort of after he had done some things, in St. Louis or whatever, and then he came here and had a year or two. Maybe he had a few more years than that of good play, but it was never like top level corner play. I don't know, or am I wrong? Was he like a top corner back then? I can't remember.
Yeah, he wasn't upper echelon, but like you said, he was the guy that he wasn't. I think he made a Pro Bowl or two while he was here.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
So yeah, like I say, it was a little forward, but I remember him getting some pick sixes or getting some plays that were exciting, but nothing that ever translated into a bunch of W's, which, like we talk about on this show, is really what it's about at the end of the day.
Okay. Well, what about this one? Back in 2011, Stephen Tulloch.
Oh, Tulloch, gosh, he was that guy that, like, again, 2011, I'm getting deeper into football, still not where I'm at today in regards to player, knowledge and whatnot. But Tulloch was that under the radar kind of like, if you knew football, you knew him from Tennessee there, but he hadn't really come into his own, and that was the name, everybody was talking about, like, hey, Lionsgate Tulloch, he could be that middle linebacker, that captain type player. And I was on board with it when he came here. I really became a favorite player of mine just because such a good guy, hustle player. I feel like he brought exactly what you really needed. He was always out there sort of making plays in the middle of the defense, and I think he not only lived up to his contract for the majority of when he was here, but he continues to sort of come back and be part of things here or there. Showing love for the city and didn't leave on a bad note, didn't really get booted off the team due to horrible play towards the end of his days. I mean, yeah, his deal ran up, and I think he was kind of losing some of his luster, but he doesn't feel like one of those guys that got chewed up and spit out here in Detroit and never, I don't know if his career was done at that point or what, but yeah, Tulloch was one of my favorites, just a great guy, and I thought he was a really good player for where they were at that point with the team. I mean, 2011, 2012, 2013,
Yeah.
those were, decent years there.
Yeah. Okay. What about this one? 2014, Matt Prater. And remember, we're coming up. What? Alex Henry, was that the other kicker they drafted?
Yeah, I don't know. It drafted somebody who lasted like literally, I don't even know if he got out of the preseason, but that was a godsend right there, because Matt Prater was a guy that, everybody knew he was good. Everybody knew he was getting helped a little bit by that air in Denver, but a couple off the field issues, a couple missed kicks, whatever it was, cut loose by Denver. I remember me and my buddies and everybody saying, like, gotta go get Matt Prater, man. I just got rid of him. He's a more than average kicker, better than average. And sure enough, just like my I don't know if the smoke signals went to Martin Mayhew as they do sometimes to Bob Quinn, from me to them, but sure enough, like a couple days later, boom, sign Matt Prater. I was excited about it. The guy's come in and been an absolute rock, booting 50-yarders left and right, solid guy off the field, no off the field issues with drinking or whatever his other previous problems were, and just a model citizen. So like you say, kickers to me are a dime a dozen, especially punters. Sam Martin. But I feel like, we did really need one at that point. We had been so spoiled by Jason Hansen that Prater came in and has solved that void for us. And I know recently he said he wants to be here multiple more years. So I'm hoping they kind of just keep him in the fold and have him till he's in his late 30s, 40s as well. Because, why go get another kicker when you got a guy like that wants to be here and is really good at what he does.
Okay. Last one before we move on to the other half of the ledger. What'd you think about this one? 2013, Reggie Bush.
Oh boy, Reggie Bush. I mean, the biggest thing I remember about that is, like, again, of us getting more into contracts at that point. So Reggie Bush, I can remember his contract like clear as day. It was like either 4 or 5 years and like 20 or 25 million, depending on the years. Probably was a 4-year 20, somewhere in that range. And I remember just looking at that, and at that point, I felt like he had some juice left. I felt like $4 or $5 million on average was good for the type of things he might be able to do. There was all this rumor and innuendo. He was all excited, the Lions at that point, that nobody put anybody in the box, so he was going to be able just to run free. I remember taking him in a bunch of fantasy leagues after that, thinking that he was going to be the lead dog and get all these, great rushes and catches and all this stuff, and he came out of the gates nice. I remember that first year he balled out in the beginning. I ended up trading him in fantasy football and got a haul for him, and then after that he became old Reggie Bush, where he was just like, he'd get a run here or there but never really exploded the way you'd hope. And he was the Nate Burleson of running backs here. He would always talk a good game. He would always tell you what he's going to do. But then when you look at the stat line, it was like, oh, Reggie Bush got, 18 carries for 38 yards again, and a couple catches, great. It just wasn't enough, and he just didn't have enough left and didn't work. And it's too bad, but I expected more from the guy, I got to say.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's hop over to the other side. We got a few names over here. I'm going to start with this. I know you really this guy when they signed him. 2017, Paul Warlow.
Come on, man. You can't hate on Paul Warlow. He's a gritty, grimy football player. He's not a dog. He's not a dog. But he was a gritty, nasty backup linebacker, special teamer. I mean, yeah, I can't say he was really on my radar at any level, except the thing I do remember is, how the Lions from like, gosh, when was it? All the way back to Mooch, all the way through Captain Rod and even others where they'd come in and they'd bring all their old boys around. Like I feel like Paul Warlow was like he had all these attachments to whatever regime was there at that point, either Schwartz or whoever it was like, oh, Paul Warlow, we had him in such and such, and he's such a versatile, tough football player, great special team guy. And it was like, where's Grifko when you need him? Camp fodder. He came in and was just like that guy that was like here, but you just knew he didn't have it.
My favorite thing of him wasn't his accent. Didn't he have that kind of that cool Southern accent? Am I thinking of the right guy?
I can't remember. I think he, like you say, I just remember him being a backup work hard guy that we got, and people like tried to sell him as like, oh, Paul Warlow, he's gonna be good, and it was just kind of like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Let's do this one. How about this one, if you remember? 2012, Drayton Florence. Another one of the backs hoping to help the defensive backfield, but by the time they got him, the guy was talking about over the hill.
Right. Yeah, I don't have many memories of Drayton Florence, to be honest. Like the name sounds familiar, but I can't put a peg to him like the other guys you mentioned so far.
Well, yeah, I just remember about Drayton Florence. That guy was getting beat like a dusty rug. That guy, talk about those guys that get old fast. That was Drayton Florence. So I think that he was in Denver, and Denver had a bunch of young DBs. Like I think they got like Akeem Talib and everybody like that. So they cut Drayton Florence, and Lions picked him up, and even at that point, the Lions defensive backfield, wasn't that great. So they signed him, and he just got. Gosh, he was old and slow. I'm talking like Eric Davis when Matt Millen signed him to play safety, slow. Oh, gosh. He was terrible. Okay.
I just want to throw this in, totally somewhat related, but not quite. On my Believe, BLEAV, and Lions podcast drops on Mondays. Just cheap plug there. I used one of your catchphrases when I was talking with Logan. I said, man, that guy can't cover a coffee table. I don't know if I credited you. I think I did mention your name, but try to give you credit because like I know no one else would ever say that or know why I said that. So I had to give credit where credit's due to my buddy Grifka from the Koolaid Cast. But yeah, I stole your line on Monday.
It's okay. I appreciate it though.
I don't know if I ever used the dusty rug or not.
Guy? What's that? What's your biggest memory of this guy? John Wendling, 2011.
Who?
John Wendling. Don't you remember John Wendling? Isn't he the guy that had the skullet? He was like bald. Yeah. He was bald up top, but he had like the long hair out the back of the helmet. I think he had the skullet. He was like special teamer. John Wendling. And at one point, he actually had to start at safety. That's how banged up we were in the defensive backfield. And God, he was terrible back there. He was a special team.
I think you're right. It's coming back to me now. Like white safety, terrible hair, try hard guy that just was no good.
Yeah, exactly. I think because you'd see him in the game and his hair would be hanging out the bottom. I'm not talking, Al Harris, like with the dreads, but it was hanging out the bottom. And then he took his helmet off and he was like completely bald up top. He had the skullet.
That would be a good look if you were good at football, but because you're not, it just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, you look like you should, not be playing football. What's your biggest memory of this guy? When I saw this name, I just had to laugh because I'll tell you what my favorite memory was if you don't pick this one. 2018, Luke Wilson. That's Wilson with 2 L's, by the way.
Oh my gosh! Like the only thing I remember is like Luke Wilson being that guy. We had nobody at tight end at that time. I mean, nobody. So you bring in Luke Wilson, who like everybody knows is not a good football player. He's been a career backup. He's made a couple plays here or there, but nothing. And like he's literally our starter. Just once he signed the contract, he's like our starting tight end. It's just like you just knew it was trouble. Okay, he's a Canadian. He's goofy. He's got the hair. Like, I mean, I can't remember if I tried to justify that at all or say like, oh, well, he knows the system or he's going to be a, a decent role player or whatever I might have said. But I mean, he just was, I think, some publication this week. I didn't totally give it a read. I don't know if it might have been Lions Wire or wherever, but they wrote something about the worst free agent signings ever for the Lions. And Luke Wilson was like the cover pitcher or something. And I was like, yeah, he's definitely in like the top 10, man. He was just a complete waste of space.
You know what my favorite memory of Luke Wilson is? When we were at training camp and those guys had the Luke Wilson jersey to sign and they were like talking to their buddies on the phone and they were like, yeah, we're like friends with the family. And you look at me and you're like, then why are you not in the family section of the crowd? Why are you standing here with us? I was just bust out laughing.
These are the classic Grifka memories. It's always the most random crap, like what I said to Miles Killebrew about him being in the weight room too much, or what I said to, made fun of Nate Burleson when he was talking with him while you were shaking Slay's hand. What I probably said too, other than why aren't you in the family tent, is like, who cares that you're family of Luke Wilson? Like, I probably said, who's Luke Wilson? Like, what does that matter? Like, that's not like, oh, I'm Matt Stafford's brother-in-law. It's like, I'm family members of Luke Wilson. Like, wow, I'm really impressed.
The jersey to sign. It's like, dude, if you're family, can't you get him to sign that jersey whenever? I mean, you have to like actually show up for practice.
Right. I just remember they were like yelling his name too, or they were touting it like it was some big deal. And we were just kind of like, wow, these people are this is just weird on so many levels.
Okay, let's do this. Let's finish up. Last one. 2018, LeGarrette Blount.
LG, I mean, gosh, this was one that bit me. I thought like he'd come in here, he'd be a nasty physical pound it type running back. He had some good years. Everybody was clamoring for him. They passed on him. They finally bring him in. I mean, did LeGarrette Blount have any good games with the Lions? I feel like he didn't have any good games ever.
No, I don't think so. Talk about a guy going down easy just as soon as – I mean, his yards after contact had to be like -2. I mean, I don't think that guy ran through any tackle. He was just looking for somebody to touch him so he could go down.
And what sucks is like before that, he was the guy that would run you over. He'd score at the goal line. He'd do all these things. And like he comes to Detroit and for some reason, even though he loved Matt Patricia, he was pitter pat in the backfield, knocked down by a gust of wind. Like I don't know what happened to the guy. He was always nasty until he came here and he just gave up on himself and the team, it felt like. But yeah, LG was a big swing and miss. I mean, if I remember correctly too, they gave him like a good $4 million, somewhere in that range. And
that was taking the money and running. That's what they did. Talk about highway robbery right there.
Yeah, not good, man. Not good at all.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got. This little trek down memory lane. I like talking about these guys every once in a while, especially the memories of Luke Wilson's family standing out there with their jersey, waiting for him to sign it.
With 2 L's. Probably the jersey only had 1 L. They got it made at the local screen printer. Just like, who could we get that might like halfway think that we're his family members and just, hey, let's get the white guy with the long hair that spells his name weird.
Yeah,
and then try to pull the wool
long,
over
curly
everybody's eyes. Like maybe we can sneak in the family tent that way, even though we're not family. We'll pretend we're family.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, Grifka, like maybe next week we'll do some more like we didn't get in my 2000 greatest Lions at each position, so maybe we'll tackle that next week, as well as some other former players that make us laugh or that we have funny stories about, because like you say, until we get a couple more weeks down the road, probably not much coming out, except for I did predict the Lions would sign Davion Clowney before the 4th of July holiday a few weeks ago on a podcast here on the DKC. So I mean, everybody keep your ears out for that. I'm sure that's coming down the pike any day now. Other than that, Grifka, you got anything else for the people?
Nope.
Everybody, we had some arguments on Wednesday. We were all over the map. Here we are on a Friday. Griffith got me a little upset. Tried to have some strong takes for you guys. Again, I love the Detroit Lions. I love the Ford family. I love all the different things that this team has going. But I do get frustrated, I got to say, with some of this back and forth talk or these articles that Grifka brings to my attention or some of his topics. So try to have fun with it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. 2 episodes here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast talking Lions, and then you can catch my Believe, BLEAV in Lions podcast drops Monday morning, where we'll be talking all things Lions as well. So everybody, we thank you so much for listening. Take care. Have a great weekend. We're out.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over.